Hey guys, we're back. We're with the Exploring World History lesson number 2. Okay, the one we just did, lesson number 1, talked about the different strands that run through history and how important they are. And this chapter wants to give you just a little highlight through the story of a little boy named Pedro. Okay, Pedro lives in a very poor village in Honduras. He rarely travels outside of the village, has never left the country, and probably never will leave the country. He works in the same field as his father, in the same field that his grandfather worked in the same field that probably his great grandfather worked in, okay? His world is limited pretty much to that village. However, Pedro speaks Spanish. Not a surprise in Honduras, they speak Spanish, but why? Well, because Spanish explorers hundreds of years ago entered this area and dominated the area and basically forced their language on everybody. So now that the point is that everybody in this area generally speaks Spanish. What about type of worship of Pedro? Well, Pedro's a Roman Catholic. And again, why is Pedro a Roman Catholic? Because he's conquering Spanish were also Catholics, right? So they came, not only forced their language, but they forced their religion. And then you have different customs and things that go on, and you can, et cetera, et cetera. And these are the things I want us to look at as we go through looking at world history and understanding world history is why are these people doing these things that they're doing? Why are they speaking the language? Why do they have these customs? Why do they have this religion? Or is it some type of mix of religion that happens in different places? But keep those in mind and try to look for the why and the how and things as we study, okay? And because there are strands like this all throughout different regions of the different parts of the world, throughout all of our history, and some of it changes from century to century, correct? So, and this occurs in many types of communities all throughout the world, whether they're very small, poor villages, rural towns, or big cities. You have this everywhere, okay? There's various different cultures and religions, and they all have some form of strand that is worked through them based upon the history, okay? The last thing this chapter talks about, and I loved it because I think it needs to be said, is the world is not America, okay? I've traveled just a little bit outside of the United States, and have discovered two things. One, Americans think we're much more important than we really are. And not that we're not important, but we tend to think that we're more important than we really are, okay? And the world is not America, okay? The world is not defined by American history. And we tend to fail to see that on a regular basis. If people do things differently than we do in America, it's not wrong. We all tend to think our way is the best, and America is no different than that. But like I said, if people do things differently, it's definitely not wrong. We don't want to fall into the thought process that our country is the norm or the standard to which all other countries need to measure up. And unfortunately, that's some of our history is trying to push that on other people. The U.S., the United States, is one of the youngest countries in all of the world. Our history only goes back, 250 years as a country, not even that. So just remember that we are very young in the world. America is a major world power, yes, and it is involved with many things outside of the United States, yes. A lot of countries rely on us. However, we aren't the standard for the world, okay? We need to help and need to step outside of ourselves and look at things from a different perspective. And that's the key to world history, okay? Yes, we want to see our influence. Yes, we want to look at the different strands, but we also need to remember that our history is not everyone's history. What they're doing is not wrong. It may just be different. And make sure that we don't think we as Americans are more important than we are. Thanks.